Hey, what's happening, ladies and gentlemen? Alex S. Moy here, aka the Data Doctor, back with more Tableau build outs. And today we're going to be doing another Workout Wednesday. And I was scrolling through some of the historic archives for the Workout Wednesdays, and I came across this one over here that I thought would be interesting to do. It's the Workout Wednesday 22, week 33. And it says, can you compare the latest month to the prior X month's average? And this is something that I was looking at because I've actually recently worked with a accounting project, a financial project where we were reproducing a lot of financial statements, and so they were using a rolling calculation that was quite complex, and it can be challenging when you have to do it for multiple rolling periods. So I thought this would be a good test case for the skills that I've picked up from that project, and let's see how this build will look like. So the first thing I'm looking at over here is it looks like we've got some bars with the sales for the periods. We've got, looks like a parameter up here for prior months. So we're going to be tracking this rolling average. I think that's what that line is over there. And then we've got these bars over here that are highlighted. And so the requirements over here, we've got the dashboard size. We'll reference this back later when we start to polish and finish up everything. 2 sheets only because of the icon, the info icon. Okay, so there's an info icon up here. We'll make note of that. I'll show you guys how to build that out. That's fairly straightforward. And then we're going to have a couple of calculations. So calculation pull back latest month sales, prior months, X month sales, and then average those. Okay. And then add an X moving average line to show the values across the time period. All right, cool. So let's take a look at that and see how that's going to work. It's using the sample superstore data, so we'll just load that right in. And we've got the viz over here. I've already pulled it up just so that we can come over here and look at this. So we've got the tooltips over here, so we'll do some formatting for all that. All right, so let's go ahead and get into Tableau. I should have had that open already, but it shouldn't take too long to load up. Let's go full screen so you guys can see everything in crystal clear detail. I'm going to hop into my sample store superstore data set over here, and I'm going to move the other window into my other monitors just so that I can reference that and take a look at that as we're building this out. So the first thing I'm seeing is that we've got our location regions on our rows. So we've got that set up over here. And then we've got sales. So I think it is just sum of sales. And so if that's the case, we should just be able to put that on there so we can see that kind of broken out. It's over time, so we're going to grab our order date. I'm right-clicking and dragging over here, and that's going to give me this menu option right here. I'm going to select this continuous date part, which is the month, and so that's going to generate that. Let's go ahead and turn this into a bar chart. So now that is looking very much like what we want to build. I'm going to set this to manual and max size that. You'll see why that's important, or maybe you won't, because we won't actually have the issue that I get when I'm using a continuous date part. Oftentimes you get these things smashed together, and there is a line on top of this, so your center points won't line up if you use that standard kind of continuous size. It's a little bit weird, and maybe we'll show you guys exactly what that looks like in a second. So let's break down these different calculations for a second. So we know that it's going to be X months, X prior months. It does not include the current month. So that's all very important. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab, I'm going to first create a parameter. So not calculation, whoops. Let's X back out of that and come over here. We're going to create a parameter. We're going to call this prior months. And we're going to do integer. I'm going to look at her parameter. It looks like it is going to be a range, and it goes from 2 to 12. So we're going to do current value 3, We're going to say range, say 2 to 12, step size 1. And there's, I don't think there's any comment. I'm hovering over that. Yeah, so that's fine. So we'll create that, and we'll go ahead and show our parameter so you can see it right here on the side. We can test that out in a minute. I'm just going to go ahead and hide this because I know we will get rid of it, but I'll go ahead and remove it right now. Just a little minor thing, but it does matter when we finish the full build out. All right, so we've got our periods, right? So this is our prior months. And she calls it X. I typically call it N because I come from a finance background, and I always think N periods. Data science might think about it that way too. And let's see what we're trying to do. Let's build this rolling calculation. All right, so we're going to create a calculate field, and we're going to say, we'll call this prior X month average sales. And then so let's think about this. It's going to be a window calculation right here. So we're going to do window average sum of sales. And our start is going to be, we're wanting to go back end periods, right? So we're going to say minus prior months, right? And then our start is going to be, we don't want the current period, right? Think about this. This is our index. 0 is our index. So we want to go back 1. And then we want it for end period. So we're going to subtract 1 from this as well to get that. So I think that should be right. We can go in here and grab that. So we have this as a line chart. So I'm going to drag this over here and make it a dual axis. So we can see that our other axis over here is set up as a bar. I'm going to set it up as a line. And we're going to remove that color. The line over here is a black color. So I'm going to change that. The size is really, really big. Let's make it really narrow. Maybe a little bit thicker than that. And then the other thing over here, I'm going to remove that as well because that's not really helpful right now. We will have to add a little bit of coloring to the bar charts in a second. I'm looking at it. It looks like everything is kind of grayed out except for the last bar. And so we'll kind of play around with that. But you can see right here that our points for our line is right in the middle. But here's the weird thing. If I come back over here and set it fixed, it touches the ends over here. So if you're struggling with where those points are placed and you're using a continuous bar or a continuous axis, you come over here and change this back to manual and max this out, and then it will look right. So there's some null values over here. I'm not going to concern ourselves with that right now. Okay, so one thing I'm noticing right here is that we should have our prior periods be a, what do you call it? Moving average. And so we don't have enough prior periods. So this calculation should not happen. And I don't see that happening on Lorna's calculation, but I want to do it over here because I think it is important. So I'm going to come over here and say null if not enough values. So now you can see we have the moving average over here because we have 1, 2. Okay, so I think I might actually have that other calculation wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4 periods over here. It should be 3 periods. So let's come back over here and just double check. If I remove this, that, yeah, I think that is correct. So we can do that calculation in our heads, right? Like that's 58, 6, 7,000, 8,005 divided by 3. Is that yeah, that looks like it's roughly correct. I'm trying to do math. live in my head, and that's a recipe for disaster. But yeah, we just modified that calculation over there. I think that looks right now. So we're going back to our index of -3. So this is 0. This is -1, -2, -3. So we're going to go back -3. We're going to include -2, and then we're going to include -1. So yes, that is correct. And that's why we want to go back in here and validate those calculations. That's very important. So the other thing is, whenever you're working with axes, make sure, like dual axis, make sure you synchronize your axis. Definitely ran into issues with that in the past as well. So you can see that point's a little bit lower, looks more accurate now. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do, and we'll work on the tooltips at the end, but the sum of sales is fine. We've got this right here. That looks good. But the last part is really this coloring aspect. So let's create a calculation for that. And so we're actually going to have 3 different cases, right? Because she's got coloring for if it's above the average, if it's below the average, and if it's not that last value. So let's say latest period calculation. And so what we want to do first is say if last equals 0, then this. So if we're dealing with the last period on this chart, right? So if last equals 0, and so that would be this point right here. And that's how there's a bunch of different index functions. So you can see what that looks like. And so there's index first and last, which are great for manipulating different calculations, table calculations. And so in this scenario right here, we're using the last function, and we're checking if it equals 0 because it's going to return the index for each one of these values. And so I want index equals 0 over here because that's actually going to be the last bar if we set that for table across when we manipulate our table calc. And if that's the case, then I want to do that comparison. So I'm going to do a nested if statement over here. So if prior X month average, right? So it's going to give me that prior period sales is greater than, we'll say less than first, sum of sales, right? So that's going to be for that period. Then we're going to have some text over here, and that text is the latest month was above the prior 3 months sales. Okay, so the latest month was above the prior, and then this is where we're going to have to add in, and we're going to wrap it with string because the prior month, our parameter is a integer value, and so we're going to wrap that in string so that we can concatenate it with our text. Months sales average. We're going to put that all in here as the text that's going to be in our tooltip, and you'll see exactly why I'm approaching it this way. And then we're going to say else if, right? And we're going to do the opposite comparison over here. And we're going to say if it's greater than, so if prior month sales is greater than, that means our current sales is below. And so we'll just change this to below, right? And so this is going to give us that text that we want for our tooltip, but it's also going to be something that we can use over here for our calculation, or for our color, I should say. And then so else, I'm going to just say NA and so let's just go ahead and we could use null if we leave out that else statement, but I'm just going to leave as NA over here. and we'll hit OK. In fact, actually, I do want to change that. I want to change that to blank. And the reason why is because if this text is showing up in the tooltip, I don't want actually anything to show up there. So it might actually be better if we make it null. As I'm thinking it through as we're building it, guys, this is a live build, so bear with me on some of these calculations. Thank you guys for your patience. All right, so I'm going to grab that. That is not the right calc. We want this latest period calculation. So now you can see exactly what that looks like, right? So the nulls are going to be up here. We've got our latest, and then we've got above and below. So I'm going to go in here and fix on these the colors. And I'm going to go to our Seattle grays, grab a really light gray over here. Yeah, I think that's going to look good. Come back over here to our, let's go to our Tableau 20 and see if we can find a purple that matches that. I don't see, this is definitely not my forte, the matching of the colors. But I'm going to grab this teal over here and grab this purple over here, and we'll get assigned that. And I think that looks pretty good, actually, in terms of the colors. It might be my monitor. It looks a little bit brighter on my other monitor over there. So I think this visualization looks good. It looks very, very similar to the other one that we're comparing against. And so I'm just going to do a little bit of formatting. Let's go ahead and remove our grid lines for our rows. Remove some of that data ink, and then we're going to remove our, looks like column dividers. Yeah. And so that cleans that up over there. We've got this looking really good. And of course, when we put this on a dashboard that's a little bit smaller, you can see if I minimize this window a little bit, it's going to show just the years because it's that continuous time period. And so we've got our prior months. If we increase this now, we'll see how that changes. Oh, that is awful that it keeps changing that that color right there, and it's because the text keeps changing. So okay, I do want to change that calculation. We'll leave that in there because we can use that for the tooltip. But let's actually come over here and duplicate this calculation and make a separate one for this. So we'll just say above, below, and we'll just call this color. All right, so it's a good thing that we played around with that a little bit and was able to test that out. So I'm going to come back over here and replace the colors with this calculation instead. We'll come back over here to our Seattle grays, select this light gray, come back to Tableau 20, place that with, what is it, this teal color over here, and this purple. Replace that, and we've got that looking pretty good right there. And then we'll grab the other one for our tooltip. We'll drop that in there. And then let's take a look at what else is in this tooltip. So the line has a different tooltip, and it says for, in this example, central region and it's got the time period, January 22. The prior X moving period average sales was, okay. And then we've got the amounts. So we should be able to create that fairly straightforward. Let's grab all of that information and write that out. So for region in, and then we got this month period. The sales the prior. Okay, so the prior, and then we can insert the parameter. There we go. Prior moving average of sales. Moving average of sales was, and we've got our sales. So we were able to calculate that, pull that in there, and then we'll just highlight all of this text and format the color so that it's that lighter gray over here. And that way the rest of the text pops a little bit more. We're going to unbold this text right here. So some of you guys may find this part a little bit tedious, and I certainly do. But, you know, practicing doing this in these exercises is really, really useful because it's going to train you in how to build this, right? Because you're going to come across these use cases in your business with your business partners, and these little things are going to take your dashboards to the next level, right? It's going to separate you from others who are just going to kind of casually build some of these things out. Let's go back to our January 22 period, and we can see that one lines up 22,693. And I think she's using maybe a slightly later data set than I am, because her data runs all the way to 20. No, it looks like it should be the same, but I've got slightly different numbers in here. I think my calculation's correct. I'm not going to go in here and try to vet every number. Yeah, it looks like it is off a little bit. It might just be because we're using different data sets, slightly different. I'm not going to worry about it too much. This bar right here is bothering me, though, that the fact that it's overlapping slightly. So I'm going to come over here and just grab it down a smidge. Yeah. Okay, so we've got this tooltip fixed over here, and then the other one we're going to have is going to be our sales. So the bar tooltip is very, very similar. So I'm going to grab this tooltip over here and just copy it, and then come down over here to this tooltip, paste all of that in here. And we're going to replace some of this text. The sales was is the language over here. The sales was, and it's actually going to be that sum of sales. So we'll grab that over here. And so that part should look good. And then we should be able to just take this text over here and put it down here. Go ahead and hit OK. And so now we've got that latest month was above the prior 3 months sales average. Okay. And then we've got that. And I think there's a extra line. Yeah. In between over there. So for these prior periods, you'll see that there's no tooltip that shows up because that value is just null. But for over here, we have that. And there's a couple of other hacks that we can do, probably like an invisible carriage key that would give us the extra lines so that this would be a little bit tighter. But for this exercise over here, I think this is good enough. So this is looking good. We've got our tooltips matching to what Lorna has over on hers. And then we've got to put this together in a dashboard now. So let's go back and take a look at the requirements for the dashboard. And we'll just say this is rolling X sales. rolling X average sales. And we'll go ahead and create this over here. So set the size to 800 by 700. So that's going to give us our size. And I'm actually going to do a little bit bigger than that because we're going to leave room for our footer at the bottom. So I'm going to give me an extra 50 pixels. So there we go. And let's take a look at what this looks like. So we've got a parameter that's up here. We can grab that in a second. We've got this. I'm going to go ahead and remove this. I'm going to grab this. And if I hold shift, I can make it floating. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to put this up top over here. We've got our title that we'll go ahead and hide. And then we've got some text that we can slap up top. We've got Workout Wednesday 2022, W33. And we say, can you compare the latest month to the prior X month's average? And so we're going to go ahead and take that, center it, make this a little bit bigger, do 16, and we'll do 14 for the we'll do 16 for this one. And now let's go back to the 18. I think 18 would be good. We'll go ahead and darken this to black. And I'm going to do this as a medium up here. Just make that a little bit darker. And drop that in there. Let's take a look at what that looks like if we put it right there. So we've got our prior month period parameter up there with the little bar. And then the only thing that we're missing is just that little eye icon with our tooltip. So let's go and create that really quickly. This one, you can do whatever you want. Average 0, average 1. I mean, that's all fine, well, and good. And we'll come over here. We'll grab this circle. We'll say, I think typically put that down on the details or something. So on the tooltip, let me go back to her visualization, see what it says. It says prior X month does not include the latest month. So let's just do the same thing over there. Prior months does not include latest month. Yep, that is the tooltip that we want. So let's make this medium over here. We can unbold it. And is this the, let's make it darker so that we can see it a little bit better. I think that looks pretty good. So we'll have that over there, and the label, we can come over here, modify the text. Let's actually, yeah, we'll drop that into text, and then we can come over here and modify the text. We can grab this, make this a little bit bigger, italicize it, turn this black over here, apply, and we'll adjust the positioning of this so that it's center, allowed to overlap the marks. And so now it's just a matter of formatting. We'll hide, whoops, we'll hide our axis. We'll come over here to our grid lines, and we'll go ahead and remove our horizontal. We'll remove our zero lines. We'll remove our axis. And that should be everything, because that's the only thing that we have over here. And then the final part is we come over here and adjust this down to like a light gray. We've got that. Now it looks kind of like the information icon. We can make this circle just a little bit smaller, or we can make our text a little bit bigger. So when we hover over it, we can see that now. And if we go back to our dashboard, we can grab that. If I hold shift, again, I can make it floating. I can hide that, make this a little bit smaller. We'll just grab that and move it right into position up here. So if you've ever wondered how to build like a little icon or something like that, you can build them like that yourself with these tooltips, or you can use shapes sometimes and have custom tooltips for each one. So that's something that you can play around with for your own visualizations. You can see we've got that over here. So I left myself a little bit of room. So this manual sizing is not perfect. Let's come back over here for a second. Let's see what happens if we change this to automatic. Say I want to change alignment to center, but it doesn't seem to allow me to do that. I'm going to set it to the midpoint over here and see how that looks on our dashboard. So that looks really, really clean. Very good on the dashboard side. We'll leave it on that setting. And the final thing I'll do is I'll just add a little footer text over here. And so we'll just come over here and just say, data source, Superstore data sets, challenge by Lorna Brown, and recreated by Alex S. Moy. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this Tableau build out. I know I have. This is always fun for me to come in here and try some of these challenges. And if you guys like this, be sure to like and subscribe, share this with folks that you think it might be useful for. Hopefully you learned something too. I know coming in here, doing some of these challenges, sometimes there's things that I don't know and I'm learning as I go. So this is something that I enjoy doing, and hopefully you guys are picking up things as well. Drop me a comment for what you guys like, what you guys want to see more of. And as always, will be on my Tableau Public account, so you can always go back in and download it and review it. So until next time, stay busy, my people. I will catch you guys on the